Next, I want to go to Gürkan Kumbaroğlu. I believe he has some comments and questions as well. Mr. Kumbaroğlu is a professor at Boğaziçi University and president of the Turkish Association of Energy Economics. Mr. Kumbaroğlu, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Erim. First of all, I would like to expand on one statement that Mr. Bağış made, which I think is very important. He said blind membership solidarity for the EU. And I think that's at the heart of any possible solution in Cyprus. So I want to expand on that and ask Mr. Landrut, who made a very nice speech calling for de-escalation, etc. But when we look at the reality, fact is that the European Union recently extended the sanctions framework against Turkey on gas drilling in disputed waters while in the Eastern Mediterranean, while it does not have any such thing against blocks, disputed waters announced by the Greek Cypriots, which means that essentially the European Union backs up the Greek Cypriot claims, patting the back. So this is part of the blind membership solidarity as the way I see it. Going back historically, looking at how this all started, 2007 is the year when the Greek Cypriots drove the offshore blocks, and 2011 is when the gas drilling started. September 19, 2011, and then in response to that, the Turkish Cypriot side, Turkey and Turkish Republic Northern Cyprus made this maritime delimitation agreement. And then 2 days later, the Turkish Republic Northern Cyprus blocks were announced. Now, of course, it can be that the EU says we back up the Cypriots because we believe their claims are true. But look at these claims. I mean, I just want to give just at the tip of the iceberg one little example of a claim of trying to enforce economic exclusive zone around the islands. Take the example of the island Meis, or so-called Kızılhisar, or so-called Castellorici, which is 2 kilometers from the Turkish mainland and 580 kilometers from the Greek mainland. This island has a surface area of about 10 kilometers squared, and the claim of maritime jurisdiction area by the Greek side is 41,000 kilometers square. Which essentially is part of the attempt on the Greek side, Cypriot side, to get Turkey stuck into a very little area in the Eastern Mediterranean, essentially accounting to 41,000 kilometers squares. While a fair and equitable solution that Turkey puts on goes to 189 kilometers squared, not to mention that Turkey is the longest, is the country with the longest coastline along the Eastern Mediterranean. So this is number one. So my question to Landrat, if he sees any blind membership solidarity here. I just gave a very small example. Then on the role of energy and Libya, now there was this question by Valerie of Turkey, of the role of energy in bilateral cooperation, Turkey-Libya. I think Mr. Bağış gave the answer with the whole common heritage. But I would like to ask Mr. Abushagur on the role of European countries, on the role of energy in the cooperation with Libya, with the non-legitimate government in particular, because we see countries like France, they are very active. Now we know that Total, the French oil giant, has been active in Libya for decades. And has a right in key fields We know that Italian oil giant Eni also is the largest producer in the country, for example. So there are European interests there, and how do these energy interests play a role in the Libyan conflict? Thank you.
Okay. Very nice insight and questions by Mr. Kumbaroğlu. Ambassador Landry, first question was to you.
Yes, thank you very much. This gives me an opportunity to react to this. Honestly, I don't see the EU hostage of individual member states. And there's also an important point, which is perhaps not always perceived from the outside. There is serious and very high-level internal EU diplomacy also going on. This should not be minimized. If you minimize the efforts of those who try to balance the approach within the Union, they might lose interest in balancing this because they don't get any credit for the effort. And I'm talking about individual leaders, also leaders of individual member states. So the European Union, to a certain extent, cannot be what you ask from them to be an impartial broker, because the European Union has its membership. And members who are in the European Union will, of course, deserve the solidarity which is necessary. But we have never, and that's why we are looking for the different fora I described. The European Union has never subscribed to any map. The European Union has always called for bilateral discussions and solution on maritime border issues, or continental shelf, or exclusive economic zones. We have always said for the Cyprus issue, we support the UN approach. We have said that for deconflicting, we want NATO to play its role, and that we are trying actively to promote the idea of a multilateral conference for the region. So the idea of the European Union is not that itself can be the broker because of its membership structure, but that it can support the different fora and help to set up the different fora, the relevant fora in which issues can be discussed. This requires an overall atmosphere of trust and an abstention from unilateral actions which are perceived, and perhaps perceptions are different between Turkey and others. This is completely shared. So this is
we can't hear the speaker.
Important. That is this now working?
I can hear.
Can
no,
everyone
what
hear?
I wanted to say,
Ambassador Lambert?
Yeah,
I can hear.
Yeah, the important thing I wanted to make, the point I wanted to make is, don't ask from the European Union to be something which the European Union cannot be because of its membership structure. But what the European Union can do and is doing, and what many people in the European Union are arguing for, is to help to establish the right fora in which the competent parties can deal with the different issues under the UN auspices for Cyprus, in the bilateral discussions between Greece and Turkey for the sea border, continental shelf, economic zone delimitations. And again, the European Union has never, as an institution, subscribed to any map. It's just not true. We have not. We have given solidarity, but we have not. We have always asked for bilateral solutions on these issues. So I hope we can all together come to the conclusion that the most important thing is to work in the different fora for solutions, which then also creates space for EU-Turkey relations to improve. And I just in passing, allow me to say that on the boarding of the Turkish vessel, of course, our understanding is that international law and established practice were respected. I just say this for the record. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Abushagur, the second part of the question was to you. And if we can keep our answers short, because we have a lot of distinguished discussants I want to hear from as well. And after this, I want to record the questions. I want each of the discussants to give some insight, and we'll ask the questions at the end after everyone's had their say on the topic. So, Mr. Abushagur,
yeah, sure.
The floor is yours again.
Yeah, regarding the regarding Europe and its relationship with Libya,
And of course, if you look at Europe, the only thing they are interested in Libya are two issues. In particular, it is the oil and migration. And of course, the European Union does not operate as unisons because its members, they have a conflicting interest in Libya, especially when it took France and Italy in particular. And this, because of this conflict that they have in their interest in Libya, they played a very different and really very damaging roles in the last few years. And you can remember that Mr. Macron, he invited Haftar and others to be in France more than once. And then the Italian also, they did the same thing in Palermo. But all of those, really, they did not constructively engage the Libyans into this, because all what they're interested in be able to flow energy towards them and the stop of the migration from Libya. While, of course, the Libyans themselves are the ones who they are suffering because of these issues. I mean, right now, the common Libyan person cannot even get their salaries from the banks because of the problem of liquidity. And also the income of the country. And I know in 2012, when we are in the government, the production was 1.5 million barrels a day. Now it's only a few 100,000, and sometimes there is none. So really, the European, especially France and Italy, through their Total and Eni in particular, clearly that's all what they are interested in. And also they are not really engaged in a very positive way to help the Libyan people to overcome their current situation.